Rose YouTube channel. I'm Claudia. I'm a nutritional therapist and eating psychology coach with 18 years clinical experience. I lecture at various nutrition colleges and I'm here I was going to say every Friday at 11 a.m., but I actually need to take a few weeks off to organize my house move that's happening. And I will probably relaunch, I'm looking to relaunch in September. So today, before I leave you for a little bit, today let me talk to you about blood pressure and natural ways to help manage blood pressure. Blood pressure is something that's very, very close to my heart because blood pressure is how I got into nutrition in the first place. All these years ago, I was in my 20s and I was diagnosed with unexplained high blood pressure. I had a routine check just because I was taking the contraceptive pill, and it was unusually high, and I went, had all the scans, had all the investigation, and basically ended up, I was in a high pressure job. I was working at Channel 4, which, one of the broadcasters here. It was a very exciting job, quite stressful and high pressured. And I ended up on this really heavy medication that made me feel woozy, brain fog, just didn't feel good at all. And then it was a moment in time. I was standing in the Channel 4 room, and we were in the online department. There were 60 of us, and we all had our own computer, our phone, our television. And we were working at the time on Big Brother 2. So I was stood in the middle of the room, and imagine, like, normally you'd be seeing Big Brother 2 all around on these 60 screens. But I was stood there and the Twin Towers fell, and I literally saw it all around the room. And I just had this feeling that I was in the wrong place, that I shouldn't be there. That was not it's not the right thing for me. I had to go. So I went off for sabbatical. And on my way at the airport, I just grabbed this book from W.H. Smith called The Optimum Nutrition Bible by someone, Patrick Holford, who's of course very, very famous. And I picked up this book and I went off and I did voluntary work with wild dolphins in Florida and Sarasota. It was amazing, amazing. And I was reading this book and I was thinking, oh, I'm going to give this a go. And then I left Sarasota, went off traveling around Australia. And I came back and that's it. I knew there was something to this. My blood pressure had greatly improved, and I'm going to become a nutritionist. And that was it. And that's the reason I've got into nutrition in the first place, was all thanks to blood pressure. So now I feel incredibly grateful for my blood pressure. And sometimes that's, what we need to do when we're managing a condition. I'm thinking, well, what's it teaching me? How can I improve? What am I learning from it? How is this condition going to help me evolve as a human being? How am I going to try somehow and put it to the greater good? So it's food for thought there. And over the years, I've managed, at the time I managed to come off the medication altogether. Huge relief, because I didn't have to deal with those side effects. And then at different times, hi Sarah Jane, at different times in my life, the blood pressure reared its head again. So for example, during pregnancies, and now I manage it. I'm controlled, managing. I'm no longer afraid of the white coat syndrome, where you have the blood pressure on, cuff on, and you can feel it, and instantly it can create anxiety. So sometimes it's a case of mind over matter, and I've got all sorts of techniques and tricks and tips to help you. But one of the first things, if you've recently been told that you've got high blood pressure, maybe you're in a medical scenario, actually having your own blood pressure cuff and doing it measuring at different times of the day, very helpful. very, very helpful. When you're looking into a blood pressure monitor for yourself, don't go for the wrist ones. The wrist ones are not as reliable. You want a proper arm cuff. And then what you can always do is take it to a pharmacy and just say, could we calibrate? Where they test, take your blood pressure, and then you take your blood pressure with their machine, your machine, and you just calibrate to make sure that your blood pressure machine is telling you the right thing. And then it can also be very helpful to ask your doctor for a 24-hour blood pressure monitor, which is something that you wear. You've got a little sort of belt and strap, and you've got the device, can't remember where it goes, and you've got the cuff on you, and it literally during the day takes your blood pressure every half hour, and then during the night once an hour. And it is a bit weird, but it's actually incredibly valuable, because knowing if you're a dipper is important. So most people, their blood pressure normalizes, even if they've got high blood pressure during the day. For most people, their blood pressure will normalize while they're sleeping at night. So if you're getting 8 hours sleep, that's a third of the time that your arteries aren't under so much pressure. It's really good information to know. And then we know that conditions like sleep apnea, for example, and insomnia are not helpful for blood pressure. So maybe it's tackling those as well. So in terms of overall generic advice for managing blood pressure, we want to go on an anti-inflammatory diet. You can't go wrong going on an anti-inflammatory diet. So what is an anti-inflammatory diet? Well, DASH diet in America, dietary approaches to stop hypertension, is very effective at reducing blood pressure. So too is the Mediterranean diet, but just make sure that you're reducing the salt. The DASH diet has much, much lower sodium intake than the Mediterranean. Oh, brilliant, Matthew. Oh, hi. Saying 2 litres of beetroot juice. Now, beetroot juice is amazing. Beetroot juice is packed with nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide has come to the forefront recently. It was actually a few years ago that the Nobel Prize was awarded to the scientists who discovered more about this. But nitric oxide is a gas that's produced actually in the mouth, often in the body, and it's very, very short-lived, but it helps dilation, vasodilation. It helps dilation of the arteries, of the blood vessels, of the capillaries. Now, a blood pressure, when you think about it, heightened pressure is often a vasoconstriction. It's a constriction, it's a tightening. If you think of all our blood around the body as a plumbing system, and you think of how it can be tightening, the pressure is tightening. So we want to be thinking about vasodilation here and relaxing the arteries. And this is where nitric oxide is so helpful. And if you have been diagnosed or told you've got, that's a bit of a high reading, I really, really recommend you get some nitric oxide indicator strips or test strips. They're called different things. It's the same thing on Amazon. And basically what you do, if I can open it up, suddenly got a bit jammed. There we go. I've only got one left. It's got a little white tip. I don't know if you can see a little white top of it. And basically you put it on your tongue, and the brightness of the pink indicates. So this one would say you're very low, all the way up to max. Now I'm going to be max. I'm not going to use this last one up, but actually maybe I will, just to show you. So that's all you do. Literally just put it on your tongue. But I had my beetroots this morning. I had my pycnogenol. So you can see it's becoming nice bright pink, which should be here. Without the beetroot, myself, I'm totally white. I'm really, really deficient in nitric oxide. And I do a lot to support the microbiome of my mouth. I wear sleep tape as well to enhance nasal breathing. These are all things that help naturally increase nitric oxide. But I wonder if my naturally low level of nitric oxide is what contributed to my high blood pressure in the first place. So as you were saying, Matthew, 2 litres of beetroot juice, brilliant. for me, when I drink beetroot juice, it doesn't quite cut it. It's not enough to get me into a bright pink colour. I take a concentrated beetroot powder, which I buy from iherb.com, which is specifically concentrated to increase nitric oxide. I know you're going to ask me what it's called. Just search beet, BEET, in iherb.com, and you'll see the powder. It's about £15, £14 for a month supply. So I'm someone else saying I ain't drinking 2 litres. Yeah, 2 litres is a lot of beetroot juice, but you can just have a concentrated powder and you make it into put it in 1 glass and have that. So nitric oxide, very, very helpful. It also reduces arterial stiffness as well, which is it's a reduction in the elasticity of the blood vessels, can really contribute to heart disease as well as high blood pressure. So we want to be absolutely limiting processed foods here. Processed foods are generally very high in salt, and salt absolutely, so sodium absolutely contributes to high blood pressure. So we want to be looking at flavoring our foods in other ways, buying natural foods, less processed, but also making from scratch ourselves. And then flavoring our foods with herbs, spices, are wonderful alternatives to relying on salt. So excellent. Oh, Matthew's saying, I take a small glass occasionally, forced my mum to drink it. I mean, one client was saying to me the other day that his blood pressure has greatly reduced just by adding one small cooked beetroot to his smoothie. So, not everyone needs a large amount of beetroot juice just to get the levels up. Caffeine makes a really big difference. So caffeine can contribute to high blood pressure, especially for the first 1 to 3 hours after intake. And if someone is already really high, so a really high reading, for example, would be 160 over 100. So 160 is known as the systolic reading, and that can be more responsive to immediate stress. And we're really looking, 120 would be ideal. So anything over 160 is very, very high. And then the diastolic is the resting, thought of as the resting number. And so 100 would be extremely high. Someone would be put on medication, definitely with that reading. And we're really aiming for 80 and below. And what happens if someone's blood pressure is around 160 over 100 and they're having caffeinated drinks, then studies have shown that they massively increase their risk of heart disease. So it's a really good thing to instantly switch to decaf coffees. But really interestingly is these studies haven't shown the same when it's green tea. So we know that green tea is packed with antioxidants. We know that green tea contains caffeine. I personally, in my cupboard, I have decaf green tea. I don't want to take the chance. But green tea doesn't necessarily impact blood pressure in the same way. So glad I bought so many lovely herbs back from Crete. Oh, brilliant, Sarah Jane. They taste so much nicer than the dust we buy here. I've still got some of my herbs as well from last summer's trip to Crete. I absolutely love it. So flavorful and delicious, and so beneficial for our health in so many ways as well. Antibacterial, antifungal, antioxidants. We know that 1 teaspoon of dried oregano has more antioxidants than a bowl of blueberries. So, and eating all these foods, enjoying these antioxidants, reducing inflammation can be all incredibly helpful and health supportive. And actually, another really important factor when we come to blood pressure is weight management and making sure that we're at our optimal body composition, or as optimal as we can be. When often many clients, when they come on a program with me, they lose weight and they say, oh my gosh, my blood pressure's really improved, and I no longer, maybe they might even say, I no longer need to take medication. You know, it's wonderful, wonderful. And what happens is when we reduce our weight, we're often reducing our visceral fat. And our visceral fat is the fat that surrounds the organs. So we have three types of fat, just a little diversion. We have subcutaneous fat here, which is fat just under the skin. This is entirely harmless, and some people are able to hold more subcutaneous fat than others, but it's a good thing having this subcutaneous fat. The visceral fat is the fat all around the organs here. So we will hold fat surrounding the liver, surrounding the kidneys. And then thirdly, the third place we can store fat is inside the organs themselves. So for example, fatty liver. So they become increasingly more dangerous. But when we reduce our visceral fat, which we will do if we're eating healthy diet and we're on an anti-inflammatory approach and we're moving a little bit more and exercising, we will improve. Reducing the visceral fat improves arterial elasticity. So it's going to really help reduce our risk of heart disease. And it will, because we've got more elasticity and there's sort of less constriction in that whole plumbing system, then you're going to have easier to manage blood pressure. So the whole thing is win. Optimizing sleep. I know I've mentioned it, I'm just going to say again, optimizing sleep is really important for blood pressure as well. Managing our stress levels, trying to become more mindful, getting out in nature, walking. I remember when I was pregnant and I had extremely high blood pressure. At one point I was on bed rest. I had to, they were talking about cancelling my wedding. They were talking about bringing the baby really early. You know, it was really serious and really quite scary. But I remember that feeling, and also after the birth, the blood pressure didn't auto-correct like we were all expecting. With conditions like preeclampsia, normally the blood pressure goes completely back to normal as soon as the baby's born, and this didn't happen. And I remember just sort of sitting on the sofa thinking, I don't know if I should move, I don't know what to do. And then as I sort of relaxed into, how do you relax into it? But as I became more comfortable with it and learned how to manage it all better, I discovered for me, and then going for a walk really reduced the blood pressure. Going on an exercise bike just very gently reduced the blood pressure, because you can get into this state of fear, and it's really not very nice. It's a horrible experience, but actually moving and exercise can be wonderful. I'm not talking about HIIT and high intensity and jerky movements. I'm just talking about just anything that's going to calm your system down. I also learned the impact of stress on blood pressure, because I got really good at monitoring the blood pressure and discovering things. And one of the things I discovered, that after an argument and feeling really stressed, it wasn't necessarily that the blood pressure spiked at the time, it was the day after. Maybe I'd been seething about something, I don't know. But it's curious, and we're all weird and wonderful in our own ways. So it's like figuring out always what's going to work best for your body. Other nutrients and foods that can particularly help with managing blood pressure. Let's get back on the nutrition wagon here. Celery juice. Celery and celery juice. So studies say to have 6 stalks of celery a day will help, because it's so good with the electrolytes. So we talked about reducing salt and sodium, but actually it's as much about reducing salt and increasing potassium. So the sodium potassium ratio is really important. We want to, normally it's sodium here, potassium here. We want to bring it bring it a bit more like this. So potassium obviously found in bananas, kale, avocados, lots of the lovely green veg. But the celery is very helpful for the overall electrolyte balance. Magnesium is a very calming mineral for the body, and it helps vasodilation. It helps all those pipes and the blood vessels just relax and dilate a little bit more. So making sure that we're not magnesium deficient. I mean, I think I read a study that about 50% of Americans are thought to be magnesium deficient. And magnesium is found in all our dark green leafy veg. So if you're not eating enough veg, the chances are you probably are a little bit low in magnesium. And as we experience stress, we burn through more magnesium. When we eat sugar, we utilize magnesium in processing that sugar. So there are a lot of reasons why we could be low in magnesium. It's particularly supportive for helping with sleep and that second part of the night of staying asleep that little bit longer, not waking up at 4 a.m, stretching it out till 5 or even 6. Magnesium helps with that type 2 insomnia as well. So I'm a big fan of making sure that you've got adequate magnesium. Magnesium is one of those minerals, if you take too much, you end up with loose stools. So it's not that it's stored in the body, and it can be quite helpful just to think, oh, I'm under a bit of pressure at the moment, I'm a bit stressed, I think I'll take a little bit of extra magnesium support. In fact, I'm doing that at the moment with my house move. So sorry, I'm just struggling to read this because the light is so bright. When my football club plays, my blood pressure goes high. Carol, oh, it's so lovely to see you here, Carol. Oh yes, you're not alone. Yes, but that, blood pressure is meant to be up and down, isn't it? It's meant to help us when we're excited as well. So yeah, we just don't want it stuck high. I drink celery, cucumber and lime all together every morning. That's fantastic. There's a whole movement around celery juice. What are your thoughts on chlorophyll? Chlorophyll is the dark green pigment from leaves and vegetables, and it's like the blood force of plants almost. It's incredibly cleansing for our livers, for our guts. You would have it in small doses because it can be very, very detoxifying. Some people might have a bit of diarrhea, for example, a bit of irritation from taking it. Other people absolutely fine. It's a wonderful thing. I used to take it as a greens powder. I go through phases where I think, right, for the next 6 weeks, I'm going to have a greens powder with chlorophyll, spirulina, for example, chlorella in it. And then other time, or a chlorophyll drink, for example. And then I'll just have it as a short course. But if you're looking to boost your energy, if you're vegan and struggling to get some of the B vitamins into your diet, it can be quite helpful to have on a more regular basis. It's just completely depends on what your health priorities are. But it's very, very good for helping boost energy levels, I would say, and detoxify. Okay, everyone. Well, I think I've said, unless there are any more questions, I think I've said my piece about blood pressure. I hope it helps you. Do get in touch if you'd like any advice about particular conditions. What I've decided, because I've got this big house move coming, I'm not going to be here for the next 4 weeks, and then I'm planning to do a big relaunch in September, but I will be around over the summer here and there to come in and talk about any conditions. So if you've got particular requirements you'd like, or a condition, or any info you'd like, just let me know. Thank you so much, Sarah Jane. It's a big thing moving out of a big house. I'm just selling, giving away all sorts of things, and Fridays are my day to do that. So I really need to take the next few weeks to do that. Oh, excellent. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Definitely come back. Moving far? No, I'm just moving to across the river. So I'm in Hammersmith in London, just by the River Thames down there. And I'm moving across the other side to Mortlake. So across and along a little bit, not too far away, and still by the river. Because I love being by the river. I love walks along the river. It just feels, it's sort of my happy place. Excellent. Oh, thank you all so much, and hope it's not too stressful, Angie. Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm going to try and make it as seamless as possible. I'm like a duck, like pedaling away underneath, but trying to keep it all the balls up, the plates up in the air. So everyone, have a lovely, lovely weekend. Thanks so much for tuning in today. And I will come back with a big relaunch in September, but I will also be here over the summer as well. So see you all soon. Thanks, everybody. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss out when I come back. Thanks. Bye.